On blast.
And we are live. This is the Wrap It Up Ball on Blast Raps post-game show. Raptors fall in OT. Tough loss, 123-116. My name is Sheldon Alexander. I'm here with Mikey. Mikey, what's going on, my dude? It's like that, eh? It's like that.
Yeah.
Raptors fans, how you feeling? Let us know how you think, how you feeling. People joining us on Twitter at Shell Alexander. Click on the live stream there. That will get you through to Periscope. There's a chat there. Send us your thoughts. What went wrong for the Raps tonight as they lose 3 in a row? Yes, the Raptors have now lost 3 in a row.
Season's over. That's it.
Instagram, what's up? I see all the people starting to file in at Sheldon Alexander. Same thing over there. Send us your questions. Let us know what you think as your Toronto Raptors fall in Boston, 123-116. This was a crazy game. Again, 123-116 in overtime. Kyrie with 43 and 11. Kawhi Leonard with 31 and 15. The big boy players played a big boy game.
Yeah.
This game was crazy, and I'll start from the beginning, Mike, and I'll talk about the crowd. This was a Friday night in Boston. The crowd was hyped up right from the get-go. Yeah. This game had a feel of playoff intensity. This from the get-go, the atmosphere alone. This was like a preview of what's going to come in the playoffs, no?
Yeah, it had for November, it had a playoff feel, like an Eastern Conference Finals feel, really. And, I mean, it was a great game. You got to give it up to Boston. They played well, but, I mean, I think we did, too. It just
did the Raptors blow it? Do you feel like the Raptors blew this game?
They did.
They should have won, right?
They should have won. Listen, it was a backup. In the second quarter, it kind of looked like it was getting out of hand. And surprisingly, the Raptors came back and they showed some grit.
Yeah.
It was up and down.
Yeah.
But when you have the lead of 4, I think.
It was 4 points under a minute left. Yeah. You got to win that game.
Yeah. You can't let those, especially in such important games like this, even though it's November, still, it all counts the same. So
it's a tough atmosphere, too, to play in Boston. And, you know, one of the things in terms of when you're talking about the road, you need your stars to show up on the road and really carry you through, right? And I found myself, I don't know if other people were caught up in this as well, but there are times where I was like, DeLon or Fred, you know, and like kind of getting mad at those guys. But then you got to remind yourself that tough atmosphere, road games, it's tough to rely on your bench, right? Like this is when your stars need to make plays. I'll give Kawhi a lot of credit. One thing, though, I'm looking at Kyle Lowry's game sheet here, 3 for 12. He had 14 points, 7 assists, but 3 for 12, 1 of 13, and your other all-star point guard you're going against goes for 43 and 11.
Yeah,
I'm not that I'm worried about Kyle Lowry, but that was not a good performance by Kyle Lowry tonight, was it?
I mean, it's trending in the way of not looking so good for him. Now, again, despite it's only 3 games, but, I mean, the game against New Orleans is when it all started. I think he was, he didn't get his first bucket until 4 minutes left in the game.
Yeah, it was super late in the game against New Orleans. Was the first time Lowry got a bucket.
Let's just get into this right now.
Yep, let's do it.
We were talking about it. What is Kyle? Because to me, he's your second scorer.
Yeah.
And he's not.
He should be.
He's not doing it.
No.
Yeah, he's handing out the dimes, right? He's getting the assists. He's attributing to Siakam's breakout, finding him that's great. But if that's what he's going to be, then Masai needs to find that other clutch scorer. Somebody that's not going to be there every night scoring 30. That's Kawhi's job.
Yeah.
But somebody that can put in a 25 night like Etuan Moore did on New Orleans.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because, again, even deeper, I don't think Danny Green is
Danny
that
Green's
type of
not
player.
that guy.
He's a 3-and-D kind of guy, right?
And we were talking about it, right? Siakam and Serge are more your guys that score off energy or other people's playmaking.
They're the icing on the cake because you have such a 4 and a 5 that can score like a 2 and a 3, right? But I mean, you want that to be the icing. You still need the cake in there, right? And that's Kawhi, but you need something else. And if Kyle's not doing it, and we all know that it only gets a little bit less when it goes closer to the playoffs and in the playoffs, right? So, like, is that something we should be worried about right now?
Here's the thing I think we've learned through the first, what is this, 16 games of the season?
12-4, 16 games.
So, to me, here's the thing. This team, the like peak of where this team is going to go, it's going to be on the backs of Kyle Lowry. Because we saw peak Kyle Lowry early, and when he's involved, because you're right, it's not just scoring, it's playmaking, right? Of course. And so the fact that he shot 3 for 12 isn't necessarily the issue if he was still being forceful on offense, if he was still leading the Raptors offense, which to me I think was a problem because down the stretch, and we talked about this as well, and you know, people were messaging me on Twitter as well and on Instagram about this. The Raptors stopped running offense in this game, right? Down the stretch, it was more just ISO ball. We're going to dump it to Kawhi. Hopefully he could, you know, beat his guy one-on-one, but that's not your offense. It's not what you should be doing in that situation, right? They need to run offense. Lowry has to get everyone involved. That's when this team is at its peak. And I don't even think Kawhi is that kind of ISO player. Yeah. Can he get a bucket whenever?
Of course.
Yeah. But that's not what I don't think he's the most successful, and I don't think that's when this team is going to be the most successful. They need to be running offense, and when the game got really tight, Kyrie was doing Kyrie, and that's his game, and the Raptors don't really have that.
Boston was feeding him the ball. Now, what I think is Nurse and the Raptors got caught up in Boston's game, where you give Kyrie the ball, we're going to give it to our guy.
Yeah.
And it just kept being ISO. Like there was a point I was telling you, in overtime when we cut it to 5.
Yeah.
Just over a minute left. And I'm like, okay, this is a perfect setup
Run a play.
for a 3. Because if you get this, there'll be about 40-something seconds left where you're down by 2, you get a big stop, and now you have the ball with a chance to tie or win it. And what did they do? Kawhi ISO.
Yeah.
And he drove to the net, and he lost the ball. Like, what is that 2 going to do? You're still going to be...
It's just not good offense. It's just not good offense. And I was even kind of surprised at the end of regulation, they just had Kawhi stand at center court, basically kill down the entire clock. Did he get a good shot off? Yes. But I don't know if, again, you know, we've seen this with the Raptors in the past. Yeah. You've seen this with the Raptors in the past where it's just, okay, we're going to give the ball to DeRozan, get buckets, save us.
Yeah.
Is Kawhi Leonard better than DeMar? Yes. But you still don't want to be in those situations because your team is better served. Like, just look at the things that happen, right? When we thought the game was iced, it was off that great ball movement. DeLon Wright gets a wide open 3. Knocks it down. It's off ball movement. It's off sharing the ball. And the Raptors just stopped doing that. And mind you, this another big part we should mention is their depth is like their depth is really getting tested so far early in this season. Not only by injuries, but in this game, guys fouling out. Once Danny Green fouled out, that was big problems. OG left the game with an injury.
Nothing serious. I know now. In the second quarter, if everybody remembers, he went up for the dunk and he got hit and he kind of fell on his elbow or his wrist. Yeah. Now, I don't know, and Sheldon, I don't think either knows. No one knows yet if he injured it even more or a precautionary, they just took him out. Let's hope that's the case.
Yeah.
But that's big for the next couple games if he misses because you already got CJ out, you got Norm out, and you don't want to run a Danny Green with a bad back.
So here's a question I see that's on Twitter right now. It says, and I know there's a bit of sarcasm in this, but you know it doesn't take long in this the hater capital of the world, which is Toronto. But I see someone here on Twitter saying,
"Screwface capital,
screwface cap." When do we start talking about Kawhi costing us wins in the clutch? Now, it's 2 games in a row. I'll say that he had a shot to win.
At least he got the shot off, right?
So is that progress? To be honest, I'm not worried. I mean, here's the thing.
No, he's too smooth, man. Come on, Kawhi put on a show today.
At the end of the day,
he was scoring at will.
I always go back to this, and it's Kenny Smith. And if you follow us on the podcast, you know I'm a big, first off, inside the NBA guy, but a Kenny Smith guy, right? Yeah. Sometimes Kenny just makes things so simple, and he says basketball, especially at the end of the game, it's your best player versus my best player, and it's a make or miss league. Right? Because these guys are get their shots off, and either you make the bucket or you miss. Kawhi missed at the end of OT. or sorry, at the end of
quarter.
regulation, this game. And if you go back to the last game, obviously, he dribbled it off his foot. It went out of bounds.
Yeah.
Those are not good plays, but I'm not going to crush Kawhi for that, for 2 plays like that in November.
No.
Right? Like, I'm not ready to do
when
that
the man
yet.
had 30-something, 15
Exactly.
rebounds.
Exactly.
Now, if he had a poor shooting night like Kyle did against New Orleans, and you give Kawhi the ball at the end and he misses it, then, then it's due for some criticism there. But, no, he played a good game.
I see a comment here in the Instagram feed. Again, if you got comments or questions, hit us up on Twitter at Shell Alexander or on Instagram at Sheldon Alexander. We got a comment here that says, "We will never beat Boston in a close game. The refs won't allow it."
We beat them at home. Close game.
No, well, yes, that is correct. But I agree with you there.
Yeah.
Raptors did win that first game of the or second game of the season, but first game against Boston at home for sure. But to this person's point here, K2 Saunders, to this person's point, this game was really weird. It was a super physical game early. The refs weren't calling a lot of fouls. There's
that
a lot
over the
of
back by Siakam was a bullshit call.
There's just a lot of weird calls in this game, but early on, I'm going to give the Raptors credit. And you're going to notice a theme here of what I'm going to say for the rest of this podcast. And people, call me out if you think I'm being too naive about what's going on, because to be honest, I'm more focused on the process of what the Raptors are doing more so than the result. They lost a tough game. At the end of the day, they lost a tough game in Boston in overtime. But
they're going to be in the playoffs. They're going to be a top 3 seed, probably the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
And I was thinking that too. I was like, why am I thinking so negative? It's the only thing. I mean, first of all, as a fan, it's great to have a game like this in November that literally feels like a playoff game. Okay.
you also need to get used to playing close games.
Yes.
Right? They ran a lot of teams off the floor, but we know the playoffs aren't going to be like that.
Exactly.
You need to play
That
games
was
like
another
this.
thing I was going to say was who won, which was ended up being Boston. That was either way. It could have won. It could have went either way. So, it was a great game for both teams. But I'm still super stoked of what the season holds, and I thought it was a good game by the Raptors, especially without OG and Danny Green pretty much for the fourth quarter.
And people, don't misconstrue what I'm saying. It sucks they lost. You don't want to lose 3 games in a row. No team, you don't want to see your team do that, for sure. I'm not saying that, there's you want to still play results, for sure. But I think my greater point is there's a lot of positives that came out of this game that I saw anyways. Like, Kawhi Leonard was all over the place in this game. Down the stretch, whether he ran out of gas, whether he make or misses a shot at the end of regulation, to me, doesn't change the fact of what I saw for his minutes during this game.
Yeah,
the majority of this game.
He played 39 minutes.
He was all over the place, though. He was making crazy plays. He was jumping in passing lanes. He was getting buckets when he needed, like tough baskets. Driving to the basket, getting fouled, having the refs not call it, and then he kept on coming. And I got to give him credit for that, right? Because this was a tough game. Boston is a physical team, right? They got the Morris twin, whichever one it is, because I can never tell them apart. Yeah. They got the Morris twin banging, right? They got freaking Rozier. Like, these are Marcus Smart.
We were talking about, we say we have the bench, Bob. They have.
Their bench is good.
Their bench is great. Yeah, Rozier, Smart, Jaylen Brown, Bynes. And this is another thing I wanted to say that I noticed quickly is 2 things. Van Fleet's rusty.
Yeah.
Right? And we need to give him more minutes. And the other second thing is that Boston scored at will. Yes, I know it was the Kyrie show, but they know how to create their own shot so easily. And even Baines.
Yeah.
He's a great pick guy to even open up more space for them. And I just found the Raptors had to try so hard to score a bucket where it seems so easy for Boston. Yeah. And that's what makes me nervous in a 7-game series.
So the thing that you were saying earlier about the Raptors need another guy that can get a bucket like Kawhi can, and that has to be Kyle.
But
I don't know if OG's ready yet. But the thing with what you're saying, though, when you compare to Boston, okay, Kyrie can do it. Cool. Yeah. Tatum can get a bucket when needed. Hayward he's not like that one-on-one scorer, but he can get a bucket as well. Nice, yeah. The way that their team is just built, for sure, it's an interesting look, and it's a reality check for this Raptors team in terms of, like, they need Kyle Lowry to play at a peak level if they're going to beat the Boston Celtics.
Yes.
Like there's just no ifs or ands or buts or maybes or anything. Kyle Lowry needs to play at a high all-star level.
Both sides of the ball.
For sure. And you mentioned Fred VanVleet. So this was a point, too, that I highlighted to go back to because I figured it would come up. Josh Lewinberg earlier today, again, shouts to Josh Lewinberg, works for the three-letter, covers the Raptors beat guy. He said that VanVleet had indicated that the toe injury he missed time with earlier this season was a nagging thing. Nurse admitted he's probably not 100% this morning. Could have something to do with his recent slump. Raptors really need last year's version of Fred to come off that bench, so valuable. We saw that again tonight, right? That's such a good and again, that's a tweet from this morning's Raptors shoot-around. You look at the box score tonight, Fred VanVleet, 22 minutes, 0 of 6 from the floor.
1 board, 2 assists.
Right? 0 points. You're not going to win many games. Like, the Raptors need Fred VanVleet, and if he's not doing anything, they're not going to win. The Raptors bench did not play well at all. No. I thought Baines, to your point, outplayed JV, and that's a matchup JV has to win.
Yeah.
Right? JV has to win the matchup against Baines, and he just didn't. That's not a good look for the Raptors. On the flip side, we got his Serge. I'm not being surprised anymore at Serge Ibaka playing well. No. I'm not getting mad at him when he shoots a shot and he misses. He's so
comfortable at the 5.
He's playing so well. Again, 21 points from Serge, 16 points from Siakam. They had to work a little harder for their baskets because I feel like Boston's a team that can match their intensity. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And their movement and the guys they have cycling through in and off the bench are effort guys. You know what I mean? So things weren't coming as easily. But I felt like Serge and Siakam still came up to the challenge. What did you think about those two guys are starting 4 and 5 in this game?
So you're asking about Serge and...
Serge and Pascal.
Pascal, okay.
4 and 5.
Okay.
I know, you probably thought I was talking about JV. No, forget about JV
yeah, because I was going to say he had a
Serge and Siakam. What did you think about those guys?
Siakam again... especially in a big game like this, right? Mm-hmm. He did a nasty spin move too, and I don't know what I think. Yeah, it was the third quarter. I mean, he came up just like he has 16 points, 9 boards, 4 assists. He fouled out, but that was because of the energy he was playing with, right? He got a couple bad calls, but it seemed to me, honestly, even though Ibaka got 21 points, it seemed to me like JV was just always on the floor. I don't know if it was for matchups or what, but every time I looked, I just saw JV on there. So
and he wasn't doing anything.
But I didn't really notice Ibaka as much. I know he hit a couple nice hook shot floaters that were big in the fourth quarter, but realistically, I guess Kyrie just made everybody forget everything else. Yeah, he was hitting every shot. Like this could be the game of his year, and it's still early.
Kyrie, like, you have 43 points on 26 shots. That's efficient.
Yeah.
Right? Kyrie just couldn't be stopped. And the Raptors did everything. They slowed him down a bit. You know when? They put Kawhi Leonard to guard him, which is just another just crazy thing. Like, if people are sitting here, and I only bring this up because I read the one comment of someone asking about, do we worry about Kawhi in the clutch? If you pay attention to basketball and you really watch basketball and see some of the things that are happening in this game, the fact that you have Kawhi Leonard, who is able to then, you're going to say, guard Kyrie Irving, maybe one of the best ball handling guards, if not the best ball handling guard in the league, and you're saying you're comfortable enough to say, hey, Kawhi, go guard him. That's a testament to how good defensively Kawhi Leonard is, right? And they slowed him for a bit, but to then ask Kawhi to do that down the stretch and then create every bucket as well, that's a lot to ask for a guy that, as we're saying, it's only game 16. He's still working his way back. That's tough. That's when he needs help. And, they brought in DeLon to try to slow Kyrie. That didn't work. Fred, he got that work.
Yeah.
Kyle, he got the work. Obviously, Danny Green fouled out. So Kyrie gave something. He had something for everybody tonight, right?
DeLon, I think he made a couple good stops. I thought DeLon Wright actually played pretty good.
It was a tough spot to put him in too, right? When Danny Green got fouled out.
Yeah.
In comes DeLon, and that's a tough matchup for DeLon Wright to then have to guard because now you're going with Kyle in the backcourt with DeLon and now one of them, and it ended up being Kyle, has to guard Tatum. That's kind of crazy.
I know.
That's
we
not
didn't
fair,
really talk about Tatum, though.
right?
And Tatum scored, I think, 21 points, too, as well.
I'm going back to the comments here in Instagram, and Colin says, I still hold my breath every shot Serge takes. Then I'm like, quote, oh yeah, this is the new Serge. I do the exact same thing. Every second I'm just like, oh no. Another comment asked, by what game would y'all like to see Kawhi get his form back?
Next game would be nice. I mean, I think his form's
It's
back
close.
again.
He's
Yeah,
close, man. I mean, if he's much better, to be honest.
I wouldn't. I'm going to predict it right now. I don't think he plays the next.
Oh, tomorrow night.
I think they said it. Yeah,
They said him tomorrow night?
Sure.
I'd be
against Chicago, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be okay with that. I mean, I know that, again, I'm more, and people tell me if I'm being naive, I'm more about the process of this season than like the result of like the wins and losses.
75 games and then be hurt.
Yeah.
But then if OG is seriously hurt,
yeah, you might need him to play.
Yeah, you might need him to play.
Yeah. If OG is hurt and he can't go, if Fred is still banged up with his toe, if, we don't know if something's up with Kyle and that's why he's been slowed the last couple days, because Kyle's that guy where he's not going to say he's hurt either, right? Like if something, and I don't mean hurt, I mean something nagging, Kyle's not going to say that.
No.
So if there's a
Not
bunch of
this
these
year.
things going on for Kawhi to just rest, that might be kind of tough to do on the second night of a back-to-back, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I'm going to keep an eye on Twitter here to see as post-game sound comes down to see if we'll find out whether or not Kawhi will play tomorrow. But overall, this was a great game. And I know it's a tough loss, and I know that it's 3 games in a row that the Raptors have now lost. But to me, I wanted to see if they were up to the challenge of playing a tough game in Boston that had like that playoff atmosphere. I wanted to see how certain guys would show up. And Lowry, for the majority of the game, I know I crushed him for his shooting numbers, but he did a lot of other little just Kyle Lowry things to get them back, like when they were the run you mentioned, right? Mm-hmm. In the second quarter and the start of the third.
He scored, six. He had 6
he
points.
Came on a serious run.
I want to ask you a question, though. It's a little bit. 2 things. The game that Kyrie had. Mm-hmm. Does the Boston people look at that and against a big matchup in Toronto? Does that do anything for the offseason?
Like in terms of Kyrie staying?
Yeah. Just showing that because he hasn't showed something like this, and it seems
it's tough. It's tough. They got a lot of questions to answer, and to be honest, if I'm Boston, I'm trading Kyrie. I'm not letting him walk for nothing.
You don't? I think he'll sign.
But I don't know if you want to
sign him,
right? Yeah. Because you're going to have to sign Tatum.
Because that's what I was thinking.
Nobody
when I was
can get rid of. Yeah, you can't get rid of Hayward.
Like, you don't want to re-sign that guy? Are you sure?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, we're saying again, it's November.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to have this conversation again in like February when. As I stated at the start of the season, I don't know if this Celtics team is going to be as good as we all think they're going to be because there's too many guys.
They look like
Kyrie's injury prone. Though. Yeah. Oh, they looked great
a lot better than the second game.
At their peak, all in, all healthy, this team is a problem. No doubt about it. Rozier barely does anything, and he's really, really good right off their bench.
He's a candidate to be traded, actually.
For sure. So they have a lot of pieces, and that's what makes their team so tough, because even if you do slow Kyrie for a bit, in comes their bench, and in comes Rozier and Marcus Smart, and those are just tough guys to play against, right? So it might not even be so much that Freddie and DeLon are still rusty or whatever. It might just be, you're going up against Rozier and Marcus Smart, who are dogs, right? Like, those are tough guys to play against.
Why do you think, too, at the last... I know it was the Kyrie and Kawhi show, but did you think anything of the last... Even in overtime in the last couple minutes of the fourth quarter about Coach Nurse and the way he was calling the offensive plays?
So here's the thing. Good. That's a great question, because here's the thing I did want to get to, right? So... we're all talking about, is Kawhi healthy yet? Is Kawhi at 100%? Yeah. All of these things. That's just one factor of something that needs to be figured out as we get towards the playoffs, right? The other part is Kyle Lowry needs to learn how to play with Kawhi Leonard. They need to learn how to play with each other in crunch time, right?
Yep.
Look how long it took for Kyle and DeMar to get used to each other, to kind of know when one's feeling it, when the other is, how to play off each other. And Nick Nurse has to learn and get used to, okay, well, how am I going to use these guys?
These two and set up,
right?
It seems like it's Kyle's meshing great with Siakam.
Yeah.
But
with Kawhi, it just kind of seems like Kyle's
just it's an ISO play for him all the time.
He just gives him the ball and kind of like goes away and stands in the corner, right? And that's not good offense, but also it's going to take them a while for all of those guys to get used to each other.
Yeah.
It's going to take a while for Kawhi to get used to, okay, if I drive, Siakam's coming with me, I can dump it off to him. Like just those little things, right?
Yeah.
Nick Nurse to figure out, okay, I bet you right now, it's as simplistic, and I know this might sound crazy, but I bet you right now it's not a lot more complicated than Nick Nurse saying, "Hey Kawhi, which side of the court do you want the ball on?"
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And he's just like, "All right, we'll get you the ball on this side, go." And it's gonna take a while for them to get used to each other in this situation and how you can use them, right? Like, can you run Kawhi off like pin down screens and he just catch and shoot? Mm-hmm. Is that something he's good at? I don't know if they have that figured out yet, right? You might find that he's better served in that instance than here's a ball, dribble. Like, I don't think that's his game, right? So it's going to take everyone time, and it's good. Like, I know this sounds crazy. 3-game losing streak, it's not good. But playing these close games early is going to be so key.
Yeah, it would have been a lot worse if we would have got blown up by 30, obviously.
Well,
you don't want to take the
follow
L.
me here. For last year, okay?
Yeah.
One of the things that I think we all took for granted during last year's regular season was the Raptors didn't play that many close games. And their record in close games decided by 5 points or less, if I could like just talk enough crap so I could bring it up here online, I'm pretty sure they were very close to 500. Like, they weren't that good in games decided by 5 points or less last season. And I kept pointing to that as one of the reasons I thought they wouldn't do well in the playoffs, especially against Cleveland, because they're going to have to play close games. Yes.
Well, that's what I felt while you're looking for that stat.
Yeah. Thank you
and
for
I'm
helping
sure
me out.
everybody, YouTube community, what's up to everybody on Instagram, Twitter. Let me know how you guys felt too, because I know, and it has a lot to do with Siakam and Green fouling out. But the minute Kawhi missed that shot and the buzzer went and it went to overtime, I thought it was a wrap.
Yeah, you did say it. You did say it. When overtime started, you did say that was a chance. It just
felt like all the wind was out of them, because we said when DeLon got that beautiful pass play and hit that 3 and they were up by 4, with the ball with about 40 some odd seconds left, and Kyle went to the basket and dished off and made a turnover.
Yeah.
That's when the game kind of turned around, right? Mm-hmm. And it just felt, and I don't want to have that feeling as a Raptor fan. I want to feel confident, and it just felt the minute they were going overtime, like I just knew it was done.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Thank you for giving me time to find the stat, because
that's what I'm here for.
To me it was a big thing during last year, because I felt that, hey, great season, 159 games, but the whole time I kept bringing up, what is the Raptors' record in close games? And their record in close games last year, it was 5-7 in games decided by 3 points or less last year, right? That's not good.
No.
That just tells you that you're not used to playing. You're not good in playing in close games. It's probably because you're not used to playing close games. That's only 12 games for the entire season.
DeMar wasn't really clutch.
No, but that's 12 games over 82 that were decided by 3 points or less.
Yeah.
And you had a losing record in those games. So the reason why I bring that up is because right now, hey, cool, they lost those games, but you need that experience, especially with the first-year head coach, especially with your star player working his way back into the lineup. You need these things. It's about the process more so than the result at this point.
I'm trying to think.
Talk to me in December, in January, if we're having the same conversation.
To that point, I'm trying to think right now quickly of the 16 games we played, but I know Detroit was a close game. Shouldn't have been, but we lost that one.
Yep.
This one was a close game. Yeah, it came to 6 points,
lost
but
in overtime,
we lost that one. I mean,
so you're looking at games that they won that were close this year?
Well, I'm looking at close games, whether it's a W or an L what it is. And I could just think of
They ran teams out of the gym.
yeah,
So
and then the two close games.
the Cavs, they ran them out of the gym.
The two close games were, like I said, now again, it's super early. We know that. We're saying that. But it's just something to, I guess, put in the back of your mind as to, because we're all here for the playoffs, right? And when you get to the playoffs, majority of the games, 5 out of 7, are probably within 5 points or less.
Yeah.
And if that was a statistic for last season, and it looks like the two close games that we've
3
already
points
had
or less. Yeah.
this season.
Yeah. And like obviously there's a lot more, like that's a stat and there's more that goes into it because this Celtics game isn't going to count as, 3 points or less, but it's a game that went into overtime obviously, right? So there is some flaw within that stat if you look at this season, but go back to a lot of the games that the Raptors have played this year. They ran most of the teams in their wins out of the gym.
10 plus points.
Yeah, so you need to play these games. These guys need to get used to each other, right? And I'm more impressed by, I know this is a moral victory, but I was more impressed with, they took the punch in the first quarter in a tough place to play, and they came back, and when Kyle Lowry and Kawhi Leonard checked back into the game in the second quarter, those guys came back and they counter punched the Celtics and came back. Kyle Lowry was taking charges. Kyle Lowry was in there fighting for rebounds, diving for loose balls. Kawhi was making steals, getting buckets. And I was just impressed to see that run by those guys because that was them saying, no, we're not going to get bullied out of this game. We're going to make a game of it. Now, again, they took over the game. They were up by 10, let them back in. I thought the bench was in for too long, but same thing.
I was screaming, bring Kawhi back in, bring Kawhi back in.
And it was tough because there was a point in the fourth, they were up 10, no? In the fourth quarter at certain points.
78-68 or something, if I can recall.
The bench just couldn't hold on to the game. You bring back in Kawhi, and now you're asking for Kawhi and Kyle to do it all, and Kyle wasn't aggressive down the stretch.
And Van Fleet too, like we said, he had a horrible game, and it's just
Van
like
Fleet
we need him. Like,
oh, definitely.
Even if we can get half of what Van Fleet was last year, like it seems. Listen, guys, clearly they've said that they're not 100% what they can be. That's clear yet, but they do seem banged up right now.
Sure.
Like, and even if they are playing, there's something that's nagging.
Yeah.
So let's just guess.
And I don't want to come off as a Raptors apologist because I'm definitely not that. Here's the thing, right?
We'll see
my point to Raptors fans here is that this season is about the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
And so
it's a marathon.
Here's someone in the Periscope chat that says, because we've had early success, it's easy to ignore that the Raptors still have to build chemistry. That's exactly what I'm saying, right? Yeah. Like, as much as you're adding in your best player onto a team, you're also adding in another starter in Danny Green, and you have a new coach.
And Kawhi wasn't here all summer. It's not like they're in the gym together, getting to know each other. I mean, maybe Kyle and Kawhi haven't barely even talked or gone out yet. Who knows that, right? So that takes all time to mesh. And
they had one road trip, that's it, to kind of bond on the road.
They balled out on 4-0, so that was at least
right?
That was good, right? So, I mean, there's good things to look at. Listen, I know we're all getting carried with the 3-game losing streak, but you're right. There are some things that I saw in this game definitely that I like. And
that was a really that was a great game.
That was. And the Raptors should have had it.
Yeah, Raptors definitely should have won that game.
I feel sick again. Like I did with Detroit.
Here's the thing. Here's the reality of, the start that they got out to covered up the fact, and I think this was doubled down on the fact that Casey came by to remind us that, hey, you have a new coach. And regardless of, how great the Raptors started this year, Nick Nurse now, you're the one in the seat having to make these calls. Who's going into the game at what point? When am I bringing Kawhi Leonard back into the game? Who am I giving the ball to down the stretch? How am I going to motivate Kyle Lowry to get him going, right? Like, all of these things are things now that Nick Nurse is in the seat for the first time, and he's got to figure out all those things, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a completely different ball game than advising, than you having to be the guy.
Of course.
Right? And so, hey, the Casey thing was a reminder of all that, because Casey said, hey, he knows the reason he got let go was in part because there was this belief that he was slow to make adjustments. He didn't drop plays down the stretch, all of these things. And if you look at the last two games of what the Raptors have done, It's not like Nick Nurse has
Has been
proven to be
good,
the
yeah.
answer to that either.
And today even felt, and Foots was saying too when we were watching it, that it kind of felt like it was Coach Casey there, right? Because with the ice on, there was not like, what play are we doing? Come on, guys! And they were just letting the ball, like they weren't even going past it. It was like
it wasn't good. It wasn't good offense.
It wasn't a good called game.
And this is
Nick
why
Nurse.
I've always said, right? And even going back to the Dwayne Casey time, right? I would say, hey, your coach is probably giving you stuff to do. It's on the players to actually like run the sets and run the plays. So who knows if he is calling plays, but then things just end up breaking down and now you're in the ISO form, right? But that last play of regulation, that clearly was just Kawhi ISO. Like he just stood at center court and wound down the clock.
The hand was in his face a bit, but he had a good shot.
He had a good look at it.
Like, the bottom line is Kyrie balled out. He's not going to do that every game against us. But Boston, what I took away, like I said, so many weapons, and they can create their own shot so easily.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a battle all year.
So another comment here on Instagram says the bench mob is different this year too. I agree with that. The bench mob has not
Siakam
been
isn't in the bench anymore
for sure.
Hurdle, who like it's definitely
It's a different crew, but the production hasn't been there, and I think that starts with Freddie.
He's hurt.
Yeah,
OG.
I don't know. He slowed. OG still. They haven't gotten into their groove yet. I don't think they've played enough consistent games, full games together before someone else goes down and gets injured, right?
Yeah.
So it's been tough to see them like struggle, for lack of a better term, right? Like let's keep it 100 for a second, right? The bench mob is struggling. The strength that it was last year hasn't been the same strength this year. And so in turn, that forces you need more from Kyle Lowry. You can't have these games from Kyle Lowry.
Speaking of, this is way too early, but let's have a little fun, a little hot take. Let's do a little bit of small trade talk.
Talk.
If you're the Raptors, because like we said, it seems that Kyle is taking more of that leadership in the dishing right now. And I think we need another shooter scorer. Do you think there's anybody out there? Maybe Kyle Korver?
No,
Or
I don't want Kyle Korver.
somebody that could just shoot the three? No? There's nobody?
I think you need this team healthy. The Raptors as currently constituted, with everybody healthy.
So you like it?
They're
How
fine.
they're constructed?
Yeah, I think
you
that
wouldn't go out and get another veteran scorer, maybe.
Without Danny Green, without CJ, you're losing a lot of shooting, and now you're adding more to Kyle, right? Like you now need Kyle Lowry to like knock in threes. You can't have him have an off game if Danny Green is fouled out. If we already know CJ's already hurt, but the Raptors tonight
Powell's
were
out.
8 of 29. They shot 27% from 3-point land tonight. You're not going to win many games when you do that, right? And especially, it's not that Boston shot much better, but again, overall, I'm going to stress this. I know it was a crazy game. I know it's another bad loss down the stretch, but I would tell people to have some patience with this team just because, hey, everything looked good, everything looked great, and everything's fine when you're running teams out of the gym.
yeah, I know, you're right.
But these are the games that will show you what this team is really made of come playoff time. And,
listen,
they need to work through
You're right.
that.
And if Kawhi would have made a shot, or then we'd have a completely different...
Right? If Kawhi doesn't dribble it off his leg, or if he hits that shot tonight,
if he hits
what's
both
a conversation?
of them, right?
What's a conversation?
Now, look how clutch he is.
They're winning the NBA championship. And how crazy of a hot take is that?
But that's
it's
the
ridiculous,
greatest thing
right?
about being a fan.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. That's the beauty of being a fan. And hey, I would stress it. Think about the fact that we're talking about the Toronto Raptors franchise, right? Primetime game, Friday night on ESPN against the Boston Celtics, and you're watching Kyrie Irving, right? Who hit one of the biggest shots in NBA Finals history. Yeah. You're watching Kyrie Irving go for 43 and 11, and the guy on your team goes for 31 and 15. And I just stress to enjoy this season. Exactly. That was a great, great game. Did it come out in the way that you wanted? No. Should they have won it in regulation? Yes. Right? But hey, got to work through that. Got to figure things out. And we're just realizing that there's an adjustment that's going to have to be made at a certain point on this team because they are built right now with the way that Kyle Lowry plays at this stage of his career. You need the bench.
Yeah.
Right? You need the bench because you can't rely on Kyle Lowry to be the Kyle Lowry we saw early in the season.
Yeah,
you can't rely on that.
You want him to
every
be
game.
rested in the playoffs. We need CJ.
But you can't.
We need OG.
But I'm just saying, like, Kyle Lowry's not going to do that every game for the entire season. That's why the bench mob is so important.
He needs his. He needs his rest, and he needs to be at his gas tank full come April and May.
Yeah, and so as Kyle learns how to play with Kawhi, how Kawhi learns how to play with Kyle, how Nick Nurse learns how to coach all these guys together.
Yeah,
they'll
guys,
figure
remember,
this out.
You're right.
They got good players, man. The team is nice.
Think of Nurse kind of like this. In fact, it's his first year, so he's gonna go, and have his ups and downs.
Yeah.
Right. So
they went toe to toe with
they're still 13
one of the best
and 4
teams
guys.
in the league.
So they're
right?
still number 1 in the East.
Still number 1 in the league. No,
are they?
Like,
Golden State.
Golden State's on a little bad stretch as well, right? They're tied with Golden State. Golden State's at 12-4. Raptors are at 12-4. So I mean, hey,
there you go. Positive spin on it.
I mean, at the end of the day, it was a great game. Like, I was entertained as a basketball fan.
I was jumping up the course,
we were high-fiving at certain points.
That's the first real high five of the year.
Threes.
That was a hard one. You know those ones where your hand stinks in November?
Right?
Yeah.
So, lots of fun. Raptors
YouTube
fans.
community also. Let us know what you guys think, too, of the game.
Yeah, let us know what you think. Hit us up in the comments. Let us know, Mikey, if the people are trying to hit you up, to let you know what they think. Where should they find you?
Add me up on Instagram if you want. Mike Bello, BELLO _6. Hit me up.
And you can find me on Twitter at Shell Alexander and on Instagram at Sheldon Alexander. And shout out to all the people. Yeah, let us know what you think, Raptors fans. Interesting times in Raptorland.
Interesting week, let's just say that. I went from a 4-0 West Coast trip to the what the? You know?
Like, hold up. Right?
It's gonna be like this all season, guys.
Yeah, it's a reminder that it's a long season, it's a long road, there's ups and downs and twists and turns. That's why I stress it's about the process and not the results, especially super early in the season. Because if you have expectations of, let's be honest, as Raptors fan base, we're not used to this. The Raptors fan base is not used to this.
I still believe and think they will get this first seed in the Eastern Conference. I'm pretty confident about that.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Yes, this game would have been definitely nice to have a 2-0 lead on Boston in the season series. Another game in hand on them, but the way we played was good. And like I said, I'm totally confident that the Raptors will still get it. Was that Dunlop?
No. Oh. I see Dunlop. What's up? Gonna shout out some more people I see here in the chat. C Brown, hello. Beals is in NYC. Is that what I'm seeing here? What's up, Beals? He says people loving the podcast. Hey, shouts. Yeah. I'm going to end this on this one hot take here because we're not going to argue about this because I just find it hilarious. But it's like, DeMar got Casey fired, LOL, which I've been saying since last year, but that's a story for another day.
Right now,
let's see here. Do we want to hear some comments here before we go? Sure. Nick Nurse, what did Nick Nurse say?
Yeah.
Nick Nurse says, Nurse on the last play of the fourth quarter, quote, "The main thing is we're going to try to hold it for the very last shot so that nothing bad happens and they can get a rebound, call timeout, and advance it. It's just man on man, and you hope your guy can make the basket, and we have a lot of faith that he can."
I'm
not mad at
with
that.
The selection of the
not
the
mad
play.
at that. Yeah.
I just thought in overtime they kept going to ISO.
Yeah.
Right? So
this to me is a good quote here, and I just kind of I was listening to you, but I was kind of, I had the two eyes going. I was listening to you. But multitasking, yes. This is a good sign for me because this tells me the Kyle Lowry that we want. No, the Kyle Lowry that we want is coming, right? Kyle Lowry says, quote, "I've been playing pretty bad lately, rather shooting the ball pretty bad lately. I've got to find a way to get a rhythm and get it back going, but that's the ups and downs of the season. Me personally, I take it really seriously. It bothers me when I don't play well." Close quote.
Look out, Bulls. He's going to come.
Hey, that's what I want to hear from Kyle Lowry.
Any news on OG? Is he okay?
No update on OG, but he had no brace or ice on it post-game.
Good. I think it was just a precautionary thing.
Hopefully.
He's on my fantasy team. I don't want him out.
So join us again. Raptors fall.
123-116 Boston in overtime.
Beautiful.
Got it.
right?
Got you.
Raptors fall to 12-4 on the season. Hopefully you enjoyed this edition of the Wrap It Up Ball on Blast podcast, which I'm pretty sure I said already.
Yep.
But hey, we'll be back tomorrow. Bulls game. Tune in. Join us again. As always, I really did used to pray for times like this to rhyme like this. This is the Wrap It Up on Blast postgame show. Till next time.
Peace.
See ya.
On blast.